do not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or policies of ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation, its management, or sponsors. The station accepts no responsibility for statements. Good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis, and welcome to The Edge here on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. I'm your host, Devonne Cornelius, and thank you for joining me in the program for today, Friday, April 4th, 2025. This conversation is being carried live via our social media platforms. Check us out on our YouTube page at ZIZ Online and via Facebook at ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation. We are also on TV, Channel 5. When we open the phone lines, you may call us at 662-8674. That is 662-8674. Call and lend your voice to the conversation at hand. Let me greet those of you who are celebrating a birthday today or celebrated during the course of the week. And I'd also like to remember those of you who are mourning the loss of a loved one. And I pray that you find comfort during this difficult time. Today, I want to have an open discussion with you, the listeners of this program. And so we're going to open the phone lines now and begin taking your calls at 662-8674. That is 662-8674. From time to time, I like to engage with the listening audience to hear from you your views and opinions, your comments, your suggestions, your ideas as it relates to things happening here in St. Kitts and Nevis, across the Caribbean region and internationally, that would affect or have some sort of connection or relation to St. Kitts and Nevis. In the meantime, while we await your calls, I want to go to Wednesday's episode of the Round Table discussion where the Prime Minister made mention of the imports, and we discussed this briefly, I believe, yesterday, but I want to make mention of the imports bill and the United States 10% tariff imposition on countries here in the region, including St. Kitts and Nevis. And, essentially, what does this mean? And I've been hearing calls from a number of people across St. Kitts and Nevis for us to really do something about this high import bill. But when you look at the import bill, it is a reflection of things that we bring into the country. And so things that we order online, food, vehicles, all of these different things. And to have a bill in the region of $700 million, and I believe for the region 50 plus billion, is unsustainable in the sense that you see clearly where most of our resources are going. And something needs to be done. There needs to be decisive action to address this issue. Is anything happening at all? Yes. We know countries across the region, including us here in St. Kitts and Nevis, have been trying to diversify their economies. And so instead of just depending on the citizenship by investment program and proceeds from the tourism industry, they have been embracing climate resilience, climate change, and renewable energy, as this is the way to go. Even as we deal with the harsh effects of climate change as small island developing states. But we're seeing where governments across the region are trying to tap into this area, I think what they call the blue and the green economy, trying to tap into this area because there are so many opportunities that exist within this area for us to tap into. We know here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have been making and we've made some progress as it relates to geothermal and its development here in our federation. And of course, we had the discussion about the possibility of selling this resource across the region. So that too is really major and is something good for our economy. It's 10 minutes past, and you're listening to The Edge here on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. I'm your host, Devonne Cornelius, and thank you for joining me in the program for today. The phone lines are open. Call us at 662-8674. That is 662-8674. Call and lend your voice to the conversation at hand. But looking at the tariffs, so the Prime Minister at his roundtable recently stated that there is a significant trade deficit with the U.S., a factor that should be carefully considered before trade measures are imposed on the nation. And so he was basically making the point that we stand in a really good position to have a conversation with America on this issue. And the statement follows the U.S.'s recent decision to impose a 10% tariff on imports from St. Kitts and Nevis, as well as similar rates on other Caribbean nations. Figures provided by the Comptroller of Customs reveal that in 2024, so that's just on a point of correction, because I think yesterday I said it was for at least 2 or 3 years. So I'm correcting myself. The figures are for 2024. And it revealed that St. Kitts and Nevis imported 754 million Eastern dollars worth of goods from the United States. In contrast, the country's exports to the U.S. amounted to just $23 million, and that is in EC. This results in a deficit of almost $750 million between the two nations. Dr. Joe highlighted the broader context within the Caribbean community, where the region collectively faces a $54 billion trade deficit with the U.S., and the Prime Minister emphasized that this imbalance not only impacts St. Kitts and Nevis, but also the wider Caribbean, making the proposed tariffs an additional burden on small island nations. And so you're talking about the increase in the cost of living. You're talking about the increase in the cost of food, electricity, and all of these different things. And so for those who say, well, you know, these tariffs and all of these international politics, they don't have nothing to do with me. The reality is they do. It is all of our business. The reality is they have a lot to do with us, and these are things that we ought to pay attention to. The statement says that St. Kitts and Nevis remains steadfast in its position that the evidence clearly demonstrates the need for a more balanced trade relationship. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation here on The Edge. Stay with us. I'll be right back.
Listen, you hear the song? It's Nostalgia on ZIZ Radio from 1 to 3 in the afternoon on Thursdays. On Nostalgia, everybody has a good voice, so relax and go in the zone with us. Get your songbook, look in the index, find the song that is playing, and sing along. Join ZIZ Radio every Thursday from 1 to 3 for Nostalgia. It's music to soothe you right where it hurts. ZIZ Radio, touching you with variety and style. Grace be to you and the peace be multiplied from God the Father and our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. We are blessed to be hosting the Sound of Praise, our early morning gospel program, right here on ZIZ Radio. It's a morning of great gospel music, inspirational features, and the uncompromised Word of God, which is basic instructions before leaving earth and much more. Join ZIZ Radio from 3 to 6 in the morning, Monday to Friday, for the Sound of Praise. Hallelujah!
My hallelujah belongs to you.
Whether it's a dress store on 4th Street, a snacket in Cayon, or a village grocery in St. Paul's, our small businesses play an important role in our economy. By supporting these businesses, you are helping to create or keep a job or two and to revive our economy. Support our local small businesses. Buy local and keep the doors to our small businesses open. This message is brought to you by ZIZ in support of our small businesses across the Federation.
Hello and welcome back to The Edge on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. I'm Devonne Cornelius and thank you for joining me in the program for today. The number to call is 662-8674. That is 662-8674. Call and lend your voice to the conversation at hand. It is just 16 minutes past the 11 o'clock hour for those of you who are just tuning in. And I am looking at the U.S. tariff on SKN imports and Nevis imports. Now, this is a matter of fairness, plain and simple. When a small island nation like St. Kitts and Nevis imports more than $754 million in goods from the U.S., but only exports a mere, close to $24 million in return, how can anyone say we're the ones to be penalized with the tariff? $754 million. And for that, we're being hit with a 10% tariff. Now, the new 10% tariff isn't just numbers on a spreadsheet, it's dollars out of pockets of real people. It's groceries, it's gas, it's construction materials, it's our cost of living. And the Prime Minister alluded to this while he was speaking at his roundtable discussion on Wednesday. And so just looking at it on paper or hearing about it or whatever, you might say, man, That doesn't have anything to do with me. But it does. And it is something that we ought to pay attention to. The U.S. speaks about partnership and prosperity in the region, but how does this decision align with that? A tariff in the face of a $54 billion Caribbean-wide trade deficit. For me, it feels more like punishment than partnership. You're getting $54 billion. But here you are hitting us with a 10% tariff. Now, looking at it from an economic angle, you're talking about our monies, our hard work, our labor benefiting the American economy in terms of our purchase of U.S. products. So you're talking about American factories, farmers, tech companies, and exports getting paid by us. The phones that we buy, the vehicles that we drive, the food that we eat, the materials that we use, majority of it comes from the United States of America. So why are we being punished? Why are we being hit with tariffs? That is the million-dollar question. I think we had a caller on the line. We may have lost that caller. Okay, the caller is back. We'll take this call. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
In this thing, we need to understand something. It's not about us. It's about the United States of America. Trump campaigned on two things. Making America great again and bringing back the jobs or putting Americans back to work. You can look at this as the new American Industrial Revolution. That is what Trump is attempting. Trump's attempt is to force the American investors to come back to America, Nike, Timberland, all the name brand them, and the food companies, to come back, bring the factories or the industries back into the United States, and therefore put the Americans back to work, because there's work for them. His idea is that with NAFTA and such, all the factories move out of the U.S. to Mexico, the Caribbean, Indonesia, China, and everywhere. Trump is saying, we here can manufacture and does manufacture many other things. Mm-hmm. So the American economy, we are saying, is going to fall. The Americans are going to buy made in America. The Americans, with the industries coming back to America, is a new industrial revolution Trump is attempting. It is not about us. We are like collateral damage in the bigger picture. We produce nothing, but the factories that operate here, they are what Trump is really taxing. Our disadvantage is that not just us, but many of the people in the world, is that a lot of people is going to put out to work because of our dependence on these things. So now it's time for us as a people to now use the brain and come up. The Prime Minister West Africa is good that the people are now just finding out. And that's what Trump does. Trump makes everybody point the class, whatever race, religion, or culture you belong to. Everybody is now in a position that you have to do for self and gravitate to your own. Bless up.
Caller, thank you. Thank you so much for your contribution to the program. It's 11:23 and we're taking your calls here on The Edge. Call us at 662-8674. 662-8674. That is a lot of food for thought there. The contribution made by the caller. And I think, what he was basically saying is President Donald Trump basically was saying, so all of what we're seeing now then, in terms of the different policies and the changes and so on, the president, he told us. He said it. And I don't want to say told us because we are not American voters. Well, or some of us are not American voters. But he told us in the sense that we had an idea, we knew, we were admonished that, these things were going to come. These things were going to happen. But for me, and I understand, you can't be upset with a leader who would do things in the best interest of their country. It's just like the talk about immigration. Over the past couple of weeks, there's been this heightened or this increased conversation about immigration to the United States. And there are people who are saying America is being unreasonable. And my take on the situation is I compare what happens here or what took place here, about what happens here in the region. When we were having the conversation, I believe, about the free movement of CARICOM nationals. And I remember there were not just callers here, but people who I interacted with who were saying, we don't want no free movement on the CARICOM nationals. And again, I respect the fact that we're not going to always agree on everything, and we're going to have different opinions. And for those who were for and or against, they had their reasons. And in most cases, these were legitimate reasons and legitimate concerns. But a point I'm trying to make is, just as how we have concerns as it relates to our borders, immigration, national security, so too does the U.S. And so if they take a particular stance on border security and immigration, and it happens to affect our people, in terms of Caribbean people, who are not in proper status, who are illegal, in all fairness, we ought not to be upset with the U.S. because we do it here all the time. If someone enters your country and they enter your country illegally, or they may have breached the immigration laws, then there are procedures and there are things that must take place. And so that is the point that I'm trying to make as it relates to this whole immigration talk. So coming back to this now with the tariffs, I'm not in support of the tariffs because we understand how disadvantageous it could be to small island developing states like St. Kitts and Nevis and generally the Caribbean region. $54 billion is a lot of money. And to be hit with a 10% tariff, you're talking about the cost of living skyrocketing. Let's head back to the phone lines. We'll take this call.
Yes, good morning. There was a good program, but then they don't hear that Donald Trump said what he going to do, and a lot of them still voting me. So everybody a ball. We balling down here, and them up there balling too, because some of them who ain't got the nationalizing thing. they gotta go back away in the country too, because that is the problem. But here now, we always welcome people here, whether they don't really got the nationality, because the way how we people, the big society. Yes, you take care, it's Johnny back.
All right, yes. You have a wonderful afternoon. You're listening to The Edge here on ZIZ Radio, 96.1 FM. It's 11:29. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation here on the program. Stay with us.
Health-wise on ZIZ TV, Mondays at 8:30 p.m. Hosted by Dr. Monique Lescott, Dr. Jolette Woodley, and Dr. Patrice Lawrence.
Hey, guess what? It's Radio Market.
Call in and sell your merchandise. You can negotiate, give and trade.
We on radio, internet, and TV.
Like us, share us, and subscribe to
ZIZonline.com.
And remember, we don't sell nothing over $5,000. Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock right here on ZIZ Radio. Call 465-6120, 465-1903, 662-8674, or 718-577-2916. ZIZ Radio, giving back to the people.
We stop import food stuff. Even just vegetables. If we stop import vegetables, we don't have the concept. We're going to do supermarket.
Hello and welcome back to The Edge. You have a call on the line. Okay, we seem to have lost that caller. You're listening to The Edge here on ZIZ Radio, 96.1 FM. I'm your host, Devonne Cornelius, 662-8674. That is 662-8674. Very interesting conversation we're having here on the U.S. Tariffs imposed on nations across the globe, including St. Kitts and Nevis, 10%. Tariffs are designed to protect local industries, but what is St. Kitts and Nevis's what is St. Kitts and Nevis threatening to the U.S. economy? What industry are we supposedly undercutting? Hello, caller, you're on the air. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Devon.
Yes.
Is it understanding that it is okay for you to build a country, and after it is built, you run them? That and the Caribbean seems to be a difference. In the Caribbean, we don't want people to come here to help us build our country. We could do it ourselves.
Caller, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Make a point.
That is what I'm trying to find out. I mean, I see the big difference between the American way of there doing things to what we're trying to do here. Mm-hmm. These people already built America, make it great, and you're running them. In opposed to we don't want people to come here to help us build here. We need to build our own country.
Okay, I see your point, but in terms of building our country, I don't think we could do it in ourselves. And this is not to rule out, of course, our own people in terms of our knowledge and expertise. But the fact of the matter is, you are always going to need help from your neighbors. Let's look at the analogy of you having an actual neighbor. There is going to come a day when you don't have enough salt to put in your pot. There's going to come a day where you don't have any running water because your pipe busts. And so you're going to have to go down the road by Mary to get some water because Mary has a cistern. So I understand the point that you've made, but the fact of the matter is we can't do it alone. We are going to need help. Do we rely solely on the assistance from other people, or do we try to build our own resources here in terms of equipping our people with the expertise and the knowledge? Yes, of course. But for me, I believe we are going to need help today, tomorrow, and forever. That's my take on it.
Yeah, but Devon, do we try helping ourselves first, or we try to get help before we try helping ourselves?
Well, yeah, we help ourselves first. Things that may seem as simple like skills training and them kind of things, we're sending our people off to learn a skill and or a trade that is helping ourselves. But so I agree with you in the sense that if you're suggesting that we help ourselves first, it's just like you dance a yard before you dance abroad.
Thank you.
All right,
anyway, enjoy this video.
You too, and thank you so much for your contribution to the program. You're listening to The Edge here on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. I'm Devonne Cornelius, and thank you so much for joining the discussion. Let's head back to the phone lines. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Devon.
Yes. How are you doing today?
I'm okay, and you?
Not bad at all. Giving thanks.
I come up Saturday night, and I had on a pink, white, and brown pants. The custom officer went on so bad, I must take it off, and I must take off my jacket because he wanted to see what I got on. Oh, he's a 66-year-old woman. When they going to bring in things fast.
Caller?
Yes, I'm here. And
yes,
people never had to come.
Hello? Okay, we seem to have lost that caller. 662-8674. Please call us back. 662-8674. You're listening to The Edge here on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. But the caller before, making the point that we really have to build ourselves before we try to assist others, and in terms of equipping our people and all of that. But looking at these tariffs and the economic angle, these are things that we ought not to take for granted. I see this as a case of economic overreach. When a giant economy imports tariffs on small island developing states, I can't see it as just economics anymore. I don't know what it is, but I don't think it is economics anymore. When you look at the cost of living and the domestic impact, tariffs mean higher prices. It means that the price of food, appliances, and building materials almost every day, or almost everything that we rely on from the U.S. will go up. And who suffers the most? The average citizen. And it's not just an economic issue, it's a social issue. Because these tariffs could deepen inequality in a region already facing rising costs and global inflation. That was one of the reasons why the government launched the Budget Boost Wallet Initiative to assist families facing this issue. And I have to say, people have been giving their take on it, and you see where the help is going in terms of buying food and water, electricity, items that you absolutely need. Some people say, put the money in my account so I could go and order. So you order from Shein, where does that money go? To the US. Of course, yes, you pay you buy food. The money gets to the US eventually. But the idea was to have it spent here first so that it could, circulate and go around in our economy before it leaves our economy. Right? But in terms of, I want to go back to a previous caller who said, we have to start to do our own thing. And I want to comment on that because the truth is we can't make cars. We can't make phones. We can't make computers. There's certain things that we do not have the manpower, we do not have the resources, the capital, and the infrastructure to produce. We don't. And we can begin preparing our people today, but this is not something that is going to happen overnight. To properly build out a factory that produces vehicles, and the people who are making these vehicles are Kitishans and Nivisions, that is not something that's going to happen overnight. And so it means that from very early, we're going to start to have to train people here or elsewhere. There's a lot of layers to it that I don't think that we are looking at very carefully. The fact of the matter is, we are going to rely on our neighbors, whether it be the UK, Canada, the US, or other parts of the region. We are going to rely on them. And in some cases, they are going to rely on us. But it is how we leverage those relationships. It is how we maintain those relationships. Even when we talk about food security and growing more food, we want more locally grown food. But how many of us are willing to grow that food? The Ministry of Agriculture cannot grow all of the food for us to consume. And so if we get up one day and we decide we're not going to be importing any more food tomorrow, we're going to die of hunger. Because we don't have enough food right now to sustain a population of 50,000 people. And I'm not even going to debate that, because it is a fact. It is a fact. Does that mean that we throw our hands in the air and we give up and we say, well, whatever it is? Or why we be? No. Keep tackling the issue of food security, and we encourage our people to grow local, and we make the resources available, or we provide assistance where necessary. That is what I believe should be done. But we cannot do it by ourselves. We simply cannot do it by ourselves. We are too small to do it by ourselves. Does not mean that we shouldn't try. But we do not have the resources and the manpower to do it by ourselves. We'll take a break. And when we come back, we'll continue the conversation.
Health-wise on ZIZ TV, Mondays at 8:30 p.m. Hosted by Dr. Monique Lescott, Dr. Jolette Woodley, and Dr. Patrice Lawrence.
From the heart of ZIZ Radio comes a political talk show like no other. The Edge, with host Devonne Cornelius giving you his take on the biggest stories happening in governance today. Got something to say? Let's hear it. Give us a call at 869-465-2555, Monday to Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. One solid hour of in-depth analysis of the machinery that makes your country tick. The Edge, cutting into the matters at hand.
Under the distinguished patronage of the district president, Bishop the Reverend Damian E. Hughes, J.P., and Mrs. Hughes, the Methodist Church St. Kitts Circuit MCCA Men's Commission presents an awards banquet honoring male local preachers on Friday 25th April at the Carambola Beach Club at 6 in the evening. Donation $150. Tickets can be purchased at the church office on Seaton Street. Entertainment includes vocal, trumpet and steel band renditions.
Welcome back to The Edge on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. I'm Devonne Cornelius, and thank you for joining me on the program for today. It's 11:44, and we are taking your calls up until noon when we end the discussion for our midday news. Thank you so much for tuning in. The phone lines remain open. Call us at 662-8674. That is 662-8674. Call us and lend your voice to the conversation at hand. Really good conversation that we're having surrounding the U.S. tariffs imposed on countries globally, and of course us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, looking at the political and diplomatic side of things, CARICOM must speak with one voice on this issue because the numbers are clear. A $54 billion regional trade deficit. These aren't isolated cases. It's a systemic imbalance that needs addressing, not exacerbating. So CARICOM must hold one head, as you would say in local parlance. CARICOM must speak with a unified voice and address this issue in terms of our position on these tariffs. What we need is strong diplomacy, not just statements, but action. Of course, we have our own work to do here in St. Kitts and Nevis and in the region. And I see where efforts are being made. Last year, we had the conversation about the free movement of CARICOM nationals. And for some, on the surface, all we saw was people that come from where they come from would take our jobs. That's what we saw on the surface. Some of us were not willing to look deeper and say, boy, people are coming and people are going, and they're coming and they're going with their experience and their knowledge, and they're contributing to Caribbean economies, and they're building Caribbean economies so that we could produce more, so that we can really and truly become a Caribbean community. And how did we respond to this? Well, you know what? No free movement in us, CARICOM, nothing. Not all of us. I have to say that. Not all of us. But some. But that is one of the visions of CARICOM. Let's build a community. Of course, there are things that you must take into consideration. Of course, national security and immigration laws and all of these different things. Those things should not be taken for granted. But the effort is being made to build and to create a real Caribbean community. Yes, one exists, but to strengthen it. So if I decide I want to open a business in Antigua, or someone from Antigua wants to open a business in St. Lucia, or someone from Grenada wants to open a business in Trinidad, and they want to start to manufacture whatever it is that is in high demand, that they have that regional community or that Caribbean community market and that Caribbean community support to get that done. There's some who would argue, let me do this by myself and you do that by yourself. We're not going to get anywhere with that. And so one country, St. Kitts and Nevis, with a population of 50,000, we can't stand up against millions. But we would have more of an impact as a Caribbean community. Let's step back to the phone lines and we'll take this call. Caller, you're on the air.
Good morning, sir. And how are you today?
I am doing very well. And you?
So nice to hear that. I am very well, thank you. And thanks for asking. You are saying things that is so constructive. Constructive, of course, because there are foundation of construction that is firm. Security, which, of course, you provide for you and me and all of us. You know what you said? That makes me laugh. Not of what you said, but it's the truth. Because I have no one looking at to smile with them that punctuates all that you said so comfortably. And I'm confident with that. You said, we are allowing people to come here. They have the right to come here and take our jobs. You know what is parallel about that? As it is in St. Kitts, so it is in the USA, generally, more than anywhere else in this world. We're going there and taking jobs away. But when we already built America, they said, oh, we're not needed anymore. But we here, when they come and at least assist, because we all can't do anything at all alone, never will be. That's why they have man and woman, two gender, and one race, the human race, not another race there is. But it's unfortunate that most of us who are so intelligent, sensibly, who went to school and learned well, significantly speak about things and not doing anything at all. And what you said is a revelation of the statement they just made. We don't just want them to say, we want them to do.
Just on a matter of clarity, the comment I made about people coming here and taking jobs, it was me rehashing a statement that was made by some of the callers.
I understand it.
It didn't come from me to say that people shouldn't come here and take up jobs.
Mr. Collins, I didn't understand it that way.
Oh, okay. I'm just clarifying.
If I did, I would have said it differently.
Okay.
I'm just saying what you said directly. What you punctuate, I am now replaying as if rewinding a song that I love to hear and will want to hear it again. But of course, I am saying it to you because of what you said, not that I mean anything else or I believe you're saying it that have a meaning that I don't understand. What you're saying is quite right. And whether or not it has a meaning or it's more firmer from other people to understand it than I did, I know you don't mean anything. You're just saying what you saw.
Yes.
And it's right. But you are right. You are right, Mr. Cornelius. But I thank you for being honest about the things you said, not just today, but I have listened. And you know why I do more listening? Because that gives me the ability to learn. Mr. Cornelius, you have a good day, and you take care. Goodbye.
You too, and thank you so much for your contribution to the program. It is 11:52, and we're taking your calls here on The Edge for Friday, April 4th, 2025. Call us at 662-8674. That is 662-8674. Just a few minutes left before we wrap up our discussion for today. A really good conversation that we have been having on U.S. tariffs and Caribbean community. You know, I could go all day talking about Caribbean community and you know, what I think some of the things that we should do and so on, right? But I just wanted to make mention of that because at times I believe there is a lot of inconsistency in what we say and what we really want as a people. Because on one hand, we say, CARICOM not do nothing. CARICOM not do nothing. Our leaders, they not do nothing. But we had CARICOM Free Movement, which is still on the table. We have not signed on to it as yet because there are things that must be worked out. And yes, I understand that everybody is not going to agree, and people are going to have legitimate concerns, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? But at the same time, we have to be embracing in the sense that the information is there. We're going to look for the information so that we are better informed. So we can't on one hand say that CARICOM is not doing anything. Yes, of course, more needs to be done. But we can't on one hand say that CARICOM is not doing anything. But when CARICOM makes an attempt, we say, all right, no, we don't want that. Try something else. The point I'm making here, my people, is Caribbean community is the way to go. Building relationships with other countries is the way to go. This is not me saying in any way, shape, or form that we destroy our relationship with the U.S., because the U.S. has been good to us, and we have been good to the U.S. And we continue to benefit from a number of things from the U.S. and other parts of the globe. But in all of this, there must be strong diplomacy, not just get up and cuss and make noise, all in the name of a soundbite. But strong diplomacy is exactly what we need. That is exactly what we need. We are small, but we are not invisible. Our voices matter. Our people matter. And our economy, as tiny as it may be, to the U.S., is the heart of this nation. And I do not believe that we should just sit and quietly accept policies that will hurt us and hurt our people, and hurt our pockets and harm us. Let this spark something in us, a push toward real regional cooperation, real regional innovation, self-reliance, and advocacy for fairer treatment on the global stage. Now, to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, this is not just a government fight. Oh, let the Prime Minister deal with this. No. It's a national issue. It's about your food bill. It's about your rent. It's about your mortgage, your business as a young or as an entrepreneur. It's about your light bill. It's about you feeding your family. It's about you paying your daycare and meeting your monthly commitments. It's about you buying something to eat right now. Stay tuned and stay engaged. You have been listening to The Edge for Friday, April 4th, 2025. I've been your host, Devonne Cornelius. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for tuning into the discussion for today. You guys have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe. Don't drink and drive. Don't text and drive. use this weekend to rest or spend time with family and friends. Take it easy. Go home and just relax. I'll see you on Monday. God spare my life and yours.
From the heart of ZIZ Radio comes a political talk show like no other. The Edge, with host Devonne Cornelius giving you his take on the biggest stories happening in governance today. Got some